Welcome, Baruchim Habaim, Awakening, Torah, Mussar Mindfulness. I am Rabbi Chasya Uriel Steinbauer, the founder and director of Hamachon Lekadusha, the Institute for Holiness, Kehilat Mussar, the Mussar community. And I'm just beyond delighted to be here with you to start the whole new Torah reading cycle together. We spent 55 sessions together last year, 5782. And now we're starting a whole new cycle together in Bereisheet, in the book of Genesis. It is covering the parasha from Shabbat, Saturday, October 22nd, 2022, which was the 27th of Tishrei. We meet for these awakening sessions together on Sundays, B'ezrat Hashem, Yom Rishon, at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, 7:30 p.m. Israeli time. And we welcome everyone from all over the world to join us on our Zoom link from the website of kehilatmussar.com, or you can join us live stream on Facebook, and more importantly, on our YouTube page. So I welcome you. I'm so excited to be here again with you to start this cycle. It is quite an honor and a blessing to be together. So we are now in 5783, the Jewish year. We have started the new Torah reading cycle. We're entering the parasha, the Torah portion called Bereisheet, in the beginning of what? We'll jump in. And the specialty here, what we do here together is, one, we're taking refuge in community, but we're doing this practice of learning the Torah from the lens of Mussar Mindfulness, which is our specialty here. We take the knowledge and the insight and the wisdom of the Buddha from the Dharma of Theravada, insight Vipassana Buddhism, and from Mussar in the Jewish tradition, really honing in and bringing us to the strength of both, the synergy, where we are on this path towards holiness, to insight. And as I said, all are welcome, Jew, non-Jew, all Hebrew will be translated. If you're new to this practice, we'll look at briefly some sections from the Torah, and then we're going to engage in an upright mindfulness meditation practice, and we will leave with what we will do during the week. You are welcome to subscribe to us at our website and consider becoming a member, where you'll be able to practice with us, join different groups, and everything that we have to offer in this world to make it a better place. So let us begin in the beginning. We always begin with our kavanot. So our kavanot, which I will share with you briefly, if you are watching visually and you have vision, it's going to be shared with you the screen. And if you're listening through audio, then you will hear me read these out loud. So we see this time together in this practice as a radical act of self-care, which is so needed in today's world and in our practice. So we see this as doing an act of caring for the self, where we say, this is something I am doing, I'm reading at the top, to strengthen my own soul in order to be a benefit to others in the future. We also see this as an act that we're doing to care for others. This is something that I am doing to strengthen my relationship to others so that I can be a better conduit of God's good to others when they need me. However you find God, however you find that relationship. Also, before doing acts to strengthen our relationship with the divine, we say this is something I'm doing to strengthen my relationship with the Creator of all beings, so that I can be a better conduit of God's good to others when they need me. So those are our intentions, our kavanot for today's session, for our practice in general. But in particular, may we merit today to really hold this in mind and to move forward with what we're going to do in this practice together. So I'm going to stop sharing screen right now. You can find this on our website if you want these kavanot, this intention. And let me just make sure everything is operating here properly. We don't want to record it anyway, and you can't hear us, right? Okay, thank you for your patience. So let's jump in. I have to admit that I'm so excited about this, and I'm a little feeling like a little bit of monkey mind coming out verbally. And what do I mean by that? I have so much I want to say, and there's so many things that affected me in this parsha that I guess I ask for your forgiveness if it feels a little bit all over the place. But let's just begin. What are we beginning with? We are beginning with creation, and not just creation. We're beginning with light and darkness. That may seem simple enough, but why is God giving us this knowledge? Why do we as human beings need to know that there's a creator, but more importantly, that there's a creator who created light and darkness? So let's just hold that for a minute. As Jews, we take the Torah as a seemingly Jewish narrative. And so obviously this beginning of the creation story and the first 20 generations have to do with all of humanity. And so what is this light and what is this darkness? What are we to learn from it and do from it? All right, we're going to get really deep into this, all right? But I'm going to posit that the light here, and I'm not alone with this, I'll bring some sources, is really B'Tselem Elokim. It's really the point, the nikudah in all of us that is created in the image and likeness of the divine. And the darkness here is the sel, essentially. It's the darkness that all of us, the shadow side of us that we all have. So of course there's the larger light and darkness, but then there's this creation of the light and darkness within that we all carry and have. And this is profound knowledge. What does this mean? This is a gift actually from God, from the divine, to give the human being the knowledge that God has created us in the image and likeness of the divine. And to really live it, to really know it, internalize it, and to allow it to affect how we behave and how we are in the world. That we must know this to even be human in relationship with the divine and other. Okay, so we're gonna delve into this a little bit more. But basically, I want to start off by saying we ended the last parsha, right? The last Torah portion back in Deuteronomy and Devarim called V'zot HaBracha, with this blessing from our ancestor, from Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses. And we're basically taught during that parsha, particularly from a source from the Talmud Bavli, which is the Babylonian Talmud, a classic rabbinic source, coming from Sota 14a, where Rav Simlas basically expounds on. He says, the Torah begins and ends with chesed. So what is it in the beginning that we might have time to touch on, but that's not where I'm going to focus. In the beginning, Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve, do not follow directions. You may say sin, eat from the tree that they were not supposed to. And when God expels them from Gan Eden, from the garden, God actually closed them. Okay, let's just hold that. Why is that an act of chesed from Mussar perspective? But let's go back to the Torah ending in an act of chesed also. In the last parsha, Hashem buries Moshe Rabbeinu in the valley. To bury someone is an act of chesed, but it's all the more so an act of chesed, both of these, because God is actually angry at all three of these people. God is disappointed in the behavior of these three people. Just to remind you, with Moshe Rabbeinu, it's with him not necessarily hitting the rock, but attributing the water coming from the rock to himself and Aharon, and instead of to the Almighty. With Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve, I think it's pretty obvious what we just said, that they ate from a tree that that Adam was commanded not to eat from. Okay, we never hear her in the Torah commanded to not eat from it. And so obviously she gains that knowledge from her partner, from Adam. So this act of chesed means in the Mussar tradition that basically you're going to do an act of love, an act of kindness in spite of the person. Meaning they most likely, they don't deserve it. And we still do these acts. And these are really obligatory acts. What do we mean by obligatory? We clothe the naked, we clothe each other, we bury the dead. These are all acts that we must do and should do, even when people don't deserve it. Okay, so this is what we're learning first. Now, I'm going to posit that being taught and given this insight, this knowledge that there's light and darkness, and we're created with this light and darkness. We're created with this knowledge that God created us in the image and likeness of God. That's an act of chesed. That's very intimate, beautiful, amazing knowledge. To really internalize that, think about the healthy self-esteem, what we in Mussar would say, healthy anava, of humility. That the person who had this knowledge could walk on a daily basis knowing that they were loved by the divine, that's why they were created. That they were created in the image and likeness, and so is every single other soul. Each and every one holy soul. Everyone has that divine spark within. That's incredible. So here, let's bring a source here. The Maharal, coming from Prague 500 years ago, says, Ki devak b'panim shelo ziv, v'nitzutz elyon devak bo, v'devar ze hu selem elokim. So God stuck in Adam's face a radiance, ziv, beautiful word. And a spark from above is stuck in Adam, in the human being, and that this is Selem Elokim. This is created in the image and the likeness of the divine. And so that's a real gift. It's even beyond a gift. It's going to frame our whole life project, and particularly here as community, taking refuge in community, being part of the Institute for Holiness. We are on this path, this practice, this daily discipline towards holiness. That this is our life project, is really knowing this knowledge, this gift from God to have this knowledge, and to really allow it to affect us, to be really balanced, full of self-love, self-honor, to be able to do God's work in the world, to bring God's good to others. This is very important. I'd say this is the project of the human being. Okay, so let's continue a little with this. So I went on to say that what is this light, that it's created, that we're created in the image of God. And with this knowledge of light, let's see if I can show you Bereisheet, page 5. I'm going to bring some more sources here. And as I said, I feel a little bit all over the map because I'm so excited to be here with you and to be doing this again, starting this cycle here. Let's see what source I want to bring you here, if it's here. The other source I want to bring, which is tied to this idea of really internalizing that you're created in the image of the divine, is Saadia Gaon. He was from Egypt and Babylonia about 1,100 years ago. He goes on to say that God created humans in God's image. It means in terms of being a ruler, someone who really, it means memshala, rules over the self, which we'll talk about that from a Mussar perspective, but is able to rule over what God commands and what God wants. And God even tells Bnei Adam, Adam and Chava and others, that you are to kivshuha, to kind of rule over this garden and outside. You are to be the one to take care of and are responsible for the soil, the earth, what I tell you to do. First, it started in the garden, and then it moves outside, right? And so God made humans able to rule, and like God is the ruler of everything. So that's what Sadya Gaon brings to us, okay? So what happens with Cain? That's what we're going to focus on today. Cain is I'm going to say he's a beloved son, because every child is beloved, right, of their parents. He is the beloved son of Adam and Chava, in addition to his brother Hevel. But unfortunately, many of us are born into parents that don't have the greatest skill set and, are doing their own work and own practice. And so he's born to Adam and Chava, who obviously did not take responsibility for what they did in Gan Eden, eating from the tree that they weren't supposed to. But even more importantly than eating from it was the kind of passing the buck, not taking responsibility. So Adam's like, she made me do it. She's like, the snake made me do it. This is Cain's parents. Okay, so we're going to first have compassion and Cain, that he doesn't have the greatest role models for taking responsibility, let alone following rules. Okay, so we're going to hold that in mind, because that's who we're going to focus on today. But this idea that you have to really internalize that you're created in the image of God, and it's a gift that you have that knowledge. Well, Cain knew that, and everyone in those first people knew that, right? But he hadn't internalized it, not at all. Because if he had, let's look at his language. And let me come to the page. When he actually, when he is offering, which we're going to look at, what is his offering? It's just the fruit of the soil. Okay? Fruit of the soil. Not the greatest fruit of the soil, not the best offering. We're going to look at what does it mean to just bring the fruit of the soil. But when his offering of bringing the fruit of the soil is rejected by Hashem and his brothers, Hevel, who brings the best of the flock, his is actually accepted. What happens to him? Everyone thinks he gets angry. Everyone thinks there's like rage there. It's not. It's shame. It's humiliation. The language here, if you look right here, right? It really expresses a distress, as opposed to chara'af, okay, which means to be angry. We have to be very close and paying attention to the Hebrew. Cain's mood is depression. He has fallen. He is crestfallen. His face falls. This too is a figure of sadness and depression, okay? Not only in the Hebrew, but actually in several other ancient Near Eastern texts, which we learned from JPS, the Jewish Publication Society. And so what this reflects from Mussar perspective is we're dealing with someone who has too much humility. He has low self-esteem. He has low self-worth, even though he knows he's created in the image of God. I don't blame him. If I just had parents who didn't follow the only rule and it got them kicked out of the garden, and then they have to toil the soil for the rest of their life and have difficult births, I'm not sure that's going to be the best start for someone, right? Like you might not internalize such healthy self-esteem, but interesting that Hevel does do what he's supposed to do. But let's just keep this in mind, that basically Cain's really entering a dangerous zone with his mood, with the state he's in. He's allowing the state, he's having attachment to the state. And then he's probably also having storytelling, even though we don't have insight to that, right? Why mine was rejected, why my brother's wasn't. There's a lot going on here, okay? But all I have to say, this is what I want from you each week, is to study this Torah portion before you come to me. Read through it so that you'll understand what I'm talking about and we can delve into this together. What happens? Cain's depression gives way to a form of aggression. Okay, we're not sure exactly what happened, what words were spoken. There's actually a really odd language. It says he spoke to his brother, but then you hear nothing. Like there's nothing in the text that tells us what he said to him. Maybe he couldn't even speak then. Maybe it was just all like, oh, like, you know how it is when you're like full of like just depression and like, that really internalized distress, right? Sometimes you can't even speak and therefore you act out. So this is what happens, is that it gives way to aggression. And basically the first human being faces death, dies, Hevel dies. Now, we don't know if that actually was Cain's intention. Cain, as far as we know, doesn't even know death, at least with human beings. Maybe he witnessed it among the animals. No, because he wasn't in God Eden. So we don't really have that insight or knowledge, but it's our understanding in the rabbinic tradition that he didn't know death yet among the human beings. But here is the first, why you have Adam and Chava striving for immortality. We have now death. And it was his responsibility to rule over the land, right? And to bring the best of the fruit from it. He's supposed to be in this relationship with the land. He knows his purpose, who he is, what he's supposed to be doing, but he most certainly did not rule well enough to bring the best of it, but also he didn't rule over his own yetzer, his own inclination and will. What we often even term yetzer hara, that kind of evil inclination, right? This is what Mussar has to teach us, is that to be gibor, to be someone who is strong, doesn't mean that you're necessarily physically strong. You're strong in having self-restraint and discipline and calming the fire, right? The reaction between the match and the fuse. So he was not having that, right? He just reacted with depression and then acted out. Okay, there's just no space here. So he definitely is not ruling over the self. It causes death. It causes harm and suffering. Okay, so Mussar Mindfulness understands that God gave us this power, this free will to display balanced leadership, rulership, right? And the tradition understands, as I said, to be gibor, to be strong, that we must rule over our behavior. And poor Cain faced more of the darkness, right? His shadow side, not the light. And there's something really quite beautiful about light, right? The first creation of God's utterance, right? It's fitting, right? Why? Because light is the symbol of life, of joy, of justice, of deliverance. So beautiful, such a gift, such chesed, to create the world first with that and to let us know that. That's what we've been given. That's what was created. And so when Cain heads out, right, with his punishment, what does he say? He's like, I can't, it's almost like he can't believe it, right? He knows he can't be in the presence of Hashem anymore, of God. He doesn't have that right and privilege anymore. And he's saying this sin is too much. Like he suddenly realizes what he's done. Wow, I maybe didn't even mean that, right? I meant to kind of hurt my brother or act out, but I'm not sure he meant to murder him, right? This is more of a homicide. And now we see the shock of him, this boy. I mean, maybe he's a young man. We really don't know, but that's how he comes across. There's like a certain immaturity of a child who's suddenly like, what? Like, I can't believe what I've done. Like, it's too much. It's too much to bear. And his punishment is less a physical wandering, right? Because if you actually follow the Torah, he doesn't wander that far. He actually reproduces, I believe, and have children, right? It's more this karmic quality of what is consequence for his behavior. He loses the privilege to produce fruit, to toil the land, to toil the soil. He must wander. He can't actually stay and farm. Okay, there's something, it's really tragic. We should hold that in mind, okay? And hold and see how it comes up for us during learning this. His wandering is an internal one. He's lost. He's not sure of his moral compass. He's just really kind of learning it through a painful experience, right? And he has no direction, no dominion over his yetzer, his inclination, right? He's stained. He's caused harm and suffering. He's caused death, okay? So that's more the internal wandering that's happening, which is so common with depression, right? So I will go on to say, we even have this in a Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, right? That God let us know that we were created in God's image, which is a great gift. And so we're going to hold that in mind, okay? When God begins to do creation, right? This thing called, and this is from chapter 1, Pasuk, verse 2. It says that Ruach Elokim, merachefet, right? Floats, goes about what is being created, essentially. This maybe inert, disorganized matter, it's affected by God's presence, this Ruach Elokim. It's whatever it affects or is near, it transforms it, animates it, right? From God's spirit. This is profound and transforms, as I said, everything that comes into contact with God's spirit. And we, as human beings have come into contact with this Ruach Elokim, how we were created, right? And it's a great privilege and responsibility to know this and to similarly affect all that we touch and animate, which we do so much as humans, right? And this was one of the sins, the big sin, right? Essentially, if we're going to call it a sin, of Cain, is that he didn't allow his Ruach Elokim to affect his offering to God. Right? This lack of self-esteem, he didn't take up his proper amount of space, his responsibility. When it's a great privilege to transform the land, to till it, right? To get the fruit from the land. And he couldn't step in fully to that grandeur, to that role, to the God within. And when we ourselves in our practice are aware of the Ruach Elokim within, right? And that we are B'Tselem Elokim, we are created in the image, right? And likeness of the divine, right? We too are awake and alert to the effect that we have on all around us in our presence. One God given to us with God's spirit. There is a deep connection in this creation between the physical order and what we're to do with it and the moral order of the world and our internal lives and external lives. How we till the land, how we are in it, affects who we are and how we behave, and vice versa. The inside needs to match the outside needs to match the inside. This is our practice. And even more importantly, if you look at the language, that the human being, let me share the source with you if I can find it quickly, is that being in the image of God really adds a dimension of the human being, of being the symbol of God's presence on earth. This comes from the Jewish Publication Society on the Torah commentary of Bereisheet, of Genesis, page 12. And so this being the symbol of God's presence, that we bear witness to the activity of God, to the whole world, that we're like a testimony. Yeah, God created light and darkness, and it's in us too. And we're created in the image of God. And we are supposed to be leaders, taking care of and animating whatever we touch and taking care of each other. And that you too are created. And there's something really amazing and beautiful and powerful about that, right? This awareness entails awesome responsibility and imposes a code of living that we are to live up to and sometimes fail. And I think you would agree, as we're going to read through this, the first 20 generations of our beloved ancestors of humanity failed often, as we do today. So let's just hold that. So on to the next source before we move into our sitting practice. This caring for the soil, which is so important, especially today with global climate change. We're really not being fully leaders of the land, and there will be karmic consequences for that. We're already experiencing it and witnessing it. And of course, because of human institutions where we privilege one population over the other, racism, classism, sexism, you name it, I would maybe even say regionism, right? Where there are different regions of the world that are more privileged, it unfairly, that karmic consequence of all of humanity is affecting the most vulnerable, the poor, those who, like in a sense, it's like not fair to them, right? In the sense that they're going to be affected first and most before it affects those of us with more privilege. So let's move into this, what I want to share with you. That the JPS adds this beautiful, on page 31, this beautiful quote, that the former offense done by Adam and Chava, right, was against God. And now with Cain, it was against his brother, which, because we know that we're created in the image of God, and we have the God's light in us, that we've been animated by the Ruach Elohim, right? That this is also offense against God. And it was the fruit of the tree that led to the downfall of Adam and Chava. I don't know if I would say it was the fruit of the tree. It was their attachment to, their reaction to, their clinging to, right? The fruit of the tree. And it's the fruit of the soil that leads to Cain's undoing. And again, I would say it's more his lack of balanced anava, of humility, to be the leader within, to know that he had a great responsibility to bring the best of the fruit to God, and even for himself, right? For the world, right? And the first humans, right? Adam and Chava were worried about death, right? They wanted in some ways to live forever. That's part of the trying to seek out certain fruit from certain trees. And now the experience of death has become a reality. Okay, so we're going to hold that all in mind. I just want to say that as we went on with Noach, and we're now tomorrow going to get together to go through what we've done Noach, and we're going to go through together to Lech Lecha. You're going to start seeing huge patterns together. All right, so let's just keep in mind that what happens with Noach, right? The Ruach Elohim that manifests, right? Life and energy, and creates and basically transfers part of it, Ruach, part of its light, to the object that actually is created, that God is in everything and in all of us, that we're all one, right? Then to allow the corruption, the violence, and the oppression that we witness in the generation of the 10 generations that lead up to Noach and in his generation, right? They basically fail greatly at their perpetuation of the Ruach Elohim, and to actuate, right, this spirit in all life, to bring life and all that's good. Right? This is the human beings it's a collective, huge undoing, in the sense that they, through their behavior, undo creation slowly over time till it reaches that tipping point where it's been crossed. And the consequence, the karmic consequence, was God saying, causing the flood. But it was the human's behavior for those generations leading up to it. There's such violence, there's such oppression and corruption and harming of self, of the land and others, that they essentially have put this flood into motion. And this is a warning for us in this whole year of the Torah cycle, that we are going to strengthen ourselves and act together to stop our own corruption, violence, and oppression that's going to bring climate change to a tipping point, that we're going to have our own version of the Mabul. Even though God promised never to do the Mabul again, we are undoing creation. We are bringing something to the equivalent of the Mabul. Okay, so we need to hold that. We need to practice and strengthen each other to stop this, right? To make sure we're partners with God and not cause this to come into being. So this is something very important in our practice together. We're going to move into our now guided mindfulness meditation, which is so important for us to practice together, to learn. And if you're new to meditation, you're going to want to read all you can on mindfulness meditation. I don't have time to get into it now. You can also go to our website to learn some and start sitting with me in practice. Why is this so important? Because we take the time to sit with all that is. And that builds such strength in us, that strength, that gibor that we need to not act out, right? To be witness to all that's before us. There's great beauty and power in the practice. Before we get into that practice, I want to say, based on the work of Jamie Arnold, he's adapted the Pardes approach to learning Torah to a method he calls Torah Tamima. And he has shared this with me, and I think it's a beautiful practice, and we're going to use it in our Mussar Mindfulness together. We always want to keep in mind first, part of our kavanot, that how do we restore human dignity in ourselves and others all the time. But here's his method. 1, we need to focus on one midah, on one character trait. And for us, it's going to be anava, humility. We need to focus on one mitzvah, one commandment, one thing that we're going to do in service of another. And this service this week, and I suggested this with Noach, and we'll look into it with Lech Lecha, is going to be building the self-esteem of another. That we are going to find, we're going to be practicing Ayin Tovah, the good eye, and we're going to be finding whoever we meet, whoever we run into, what is an excellent good quality about them? What do you wish that you could emulate? And then you're going to let them know it. This is wonderful about you. You're so kind to others. This is so wonderful about you. You always open your hand and give generously. Whatever it might be that you witness or see, right? Maybe it's patience. So that's our mitzvah in service of others, building others' self-esteem, helping balance their humility. And finally, the third thing that we do to our personal spiritual practice that we're essentially doing together, and it's through our metta, chesed, loving kindness meditation, that we're going to build self-love, self-compassion, and it's going to strengthen us over time, okay, to care for ourselves and others. So let's move into that. So you may assume one of the 4 postures, which I'm looking for my source right now. So give me 1 second. Here we go. So I'm in a seated position where you're in your chair, and you could be in a zafu, a meditation cushion too, if you wish, or just seated on the floor. But if you're sitting in a seat, you want to really ground your feet held by Mother Earth, that we're between heaven and earth, all as one. And we're going to have an upright, dignified posture. Okay, not West Point stiff, as my beloved teacher John Kabat-Zinn loves to say, but knowing that you were created in the image and likeness of divine. So upright, right? Happy, proud, love, compassion. And for those of you, you can stand, say you have chronic pain or low back issues, you don't want to sit right now. It'll be hard to pay attention and be present. So you want to stand, right? You could be in a warrior pose to be firm and strong, or you can stand next to a chair to hold you firm and stable and safe. Other people can lie down on a bed or on the floor, on a sofa, on a couch. Make sure, my advice is, if you have vision, to keep the eyes actually open to remain awake and alert during the practice. And the other posture, of course, is walking meditation, but not walking to anywhere in particular, just walking. All right, you're going to follow my instructions of my voice. And as your own anchor, meaning what you pay attention to besides my voice, can really be essentially your breath and your body, if it's not traumatizing for you to pay attention to the breath, given maybe even asthma or COVID issues or other things, okay? So we're going to begin, which means we're going to begin with 3 deep cleansing breaths. Inhalation, the gift of oxygen from the divine. And exhalation. Inhalation. Exhalation. We're beginning to settle and arrive. And inhalation. Exhalation. Coming to stillness. If you feel safe, close your eyes. If you have vision, otherwise, lower your gaze. And we begin with a simple scan, an internal scan. How are you right now? Checking in as a beloved friend, attending and befriending instead of reacting. No need to judge at whatever you witness. Are you having monkey mind, just like I sometimes have, especially when I'm preparing what I'm going to teach? Are you ruminating over something in the past? Perhaps you are obsessing, kind of thinking, storytelling about something in the future. Maybe your thoughts are right here with me in the present moment. You're able to pay attention, to be awake and alert. For some of us, there'll be strong sensations in the body. A stiffness, a soreness, maybe even unpleasant pain. Maybe we feel an energy flowing through us. What is here for you right now? Go ahead and scan your body slowly, starting from your feet up through your legs, getting to know yourself. What do you notice? With the curious mind, with what we call the beginner's mind. Great curiosity. What's here for you right now? From time to time, you will hear me go silent. Just gives you an opportunity to be with yourself more. For some of us, there might be strong emotions that are trying to take our attention away from the present moment. Simply note them. You can even label them. It's called mental noting. It's a great practice. You can just say, sadness, sadness, boredom, boredom, excited, excited. Whatever is arising for you, allow it to be there. Just note it. No need to cling to it or identify with it. No need to push it away. What we call aversion. Breathing in, sense that you are receiving warmth and energy. That light that God created and God creates every single day and lets us know it. It's a gift, it's chesed, it's metta, it's loving kindness. Breathing out, sense that you are letting go into the gift of the openness, the great openness, where we encounter the Ruach Elokim, merachefet, al panei hamayim, on the face of the water, on the face of our body, in our neshama, in our soul. Silently begin to whisper to yourself these prayers of loving kindness, of metta, of chesed. Repeat after me quietly. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I hold myself in great self-esteem. May Hashem hold me in loving kindness. May I always know the light. The light is a gift. May I always know the light within. May I feel safe and at ease. May I feel protected from inner and outer harm. May I know joy, the warmth, the light of joy. May I accept myself just as I am. May I touch that deep, natural knowing of the light and that I am created in the image and likeness of the divine. May I know the joy of being alive and aware of it. May I find refuge in God and in my own being and in community. May my heart and mind awaken. May I be on the path to holiness. May I be on the path to insight. May I be free. May I bring God's good to others. As we say these phrases, we open to whatever images and feelings arise with the words. Approach this meditation as an experiment, seeing what words and images best serve your practice right here and right now to soften and open your heart. You might place your hand gently on top of your chest or heart, as I am, to see if this deepens your experience of holding yourself in love and kindness. Take as long as you like, offering yourself these phrases and reflecting on them. Is there a new sense of space and tenderness? Do you feel more at home in your own being? Throughout your day, as you continue with today and this week, remember to regard yourself with kindness. The more you do so, you will develop a sense of connectedness and freedom from trance, from being asleep. You can practice this anywhere, these phrases as you walk, drive, any task in your daily life. If you become agitated or upset during this meditation or in another one, these prayers of loving kindness may feel artificial at first to you if you're new to the practice. Notice if you are in the grip of fear, of shame, or confusion, or even depression, of too much humility, low self-worth, like our beloved Kayan. At times, you may even notice voices of undeserving, that you are bad. Understand that without judgment, we include this reactivity. We have the capacity to witness it and hold it all. May this too be held in loving kindness. May this too be held in chesed. May this too be held in metta. Simply resume your meditation, accepting whatever thoughts or feelings arise. Don't worry if this seems new or mechanical to you. You find yourself just reciting phrases by rote. Your heart opens over time through this practice. We hearken back to our kavanot, to our intentions, that we bring God's good, that we really care for ourselves so that we may care for others and serve God. This is what matters most, to awaken this loving kindness. In this last minute of silent meditation, you will hear me ring the bells when we are to come out together. Gently and slowly open your eyes if they were closed. Allow yourself to give yourself an inner bow. Bow to God and Hashem to thank for another day and for this practice. Bow to your fellow practitioners to be able to take refuge in community, to be here together in this wonderful awakening series. We thank you for your donations and sponsorships that allow us to offer this. All the information you can find at our website. Please give generously, or the smallest amount that you can afford. All is welcome. Bow to your teachers, to the wisdom of Mussar Mindfulness, this gift that we share together. B'ezrat Hashem, God willing, I will see you soon, right? Next week, it's every Sunday, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. We will move into Lech Lecha because we've already filmed and done Noach together. And I look forward to learning and practicing together. Thank you for this blessing. Thank you for today. Thank you for your practice.